Hello and welcome to the service submission class by me, TakuVR, written and presented for Primal Impulse. Thank you for being here. Disclaimer, it is important to remember that all activities within BDSM should be consensual, safe, sane, and consensual, SSC, and risk-aware consensual kink, RAC, and that the boundaries and limits of both submissive and dominant must be respected. Communication is key in a BDSM dynamic, and it's important for both parties to be open and honest about what they're comfortable with and what they expect from the dynamic. So, that being said, my history. Actually, let's work on consent first. Everybody, I say this at the beginning of every single class. Let's go over consent real quick because we're going to have a workshop afterwards and you're going to have to know this stuff. Everyone give me the hand gesture for green, if you can. That's a thumbs up. Yes, thumbs up. And everyone give me the emoji. For people that don't have hands, go, or thumbs up. Yes. And give me the hand gesture for yellow. Check in, slow down. Whatever's happening, I need help, or I need to talk to you about it. Hand gesture and emoji. All right, cool. That is used if you need to check in, but you don't want the thing to stop completely. Because as soon as the next one is said, red, hand gesture, like this, that means stop completely. And that means everything's going to stop. That isn't a stop for now and then we'll go again. That means stop. Okay, so make sure you know that. If you're using red, make sure it's an actual problem. Yellow means, okay, we need to talk and we need to stop for a second. Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, a little bit of history on me. I used to focus on being a guardian style daddy sated dominant. That was my forte for a long time. I've been in the scene for, I want to say 15 years, maybe probably longer at this point. I stopped keeping track. I'm a hybrid daddy, sir, primal sadist. So basically the act of service is something that is really near and dear to me. I started learning it within the last 5 to 6 years and incorporating it into my style. What that means is that I enjoy the service aspects and mixing it with primal and daddy dom styles. So service in general is someone, it's the service submissive is someone that performs a service or task for a dom or does something that makes their lives easier, being of help. Now, what they do varies a lot depending on who they are and what archetype they're taking or their own freeform custom. You can think of archetypes as sort of classes, like an RPG if you want to, but yeah, they can like, for example, domestic chores for maids and butlers, laundry, cooking, and cleaning, boot blacks that take care of leather goods, chauffeur, cigar, tea, drink service, taking care of children or the dom's littles, or their subsisters, etc., performing sexual services, etc. One thing to note before we start, service submission does not require sex. It is not required for it. That being said, a lot of people like to combine it. But again, not required. And I'm going to say this at the beginning. I had to go over this a couple times this week, just in various conversations. If anyone tries to force you to do something you're not comfortable with, say no, say red. If they don't respect your limits, exit out of VR and report them to a higher power, whether it be VR chat, Discord, the server, whatever. I'm not saying that I'm your higher power, but you get it. Like if someone's making you feel uncomfortable or unsafe, please come to us or to VR chat in general and report them, and Discord safety moderation team, because those kind of people should not be doing it, because breaking consent is not kink, it is abuse. Okay? Just wanted to make sure everyone knew that. So, first things first, and this is where it differs from the old class. We are going to start with service archetypes, finding your style. Someone might take on a service archetype for their dominant in a BDSM dynamic because they enjoy the feeling of serving and fulfilling the needs of their dominant. It can be a way for a submissive to express their submission and obedience and feel a sense of purpose and satisfaction from serving whom they serve, I guess. Yeah. They also may have a desire to please their dominant and make them happy. So basically, someone is just trying to do something for somebody because it makes them feel good and it makes the person who's doing it feel good. It can also be a way for that submissive to explore various different aspects of themselves and push their own boundaries in a safe and consensual environment. It is also a way for the submissive to feel a sense of trust and intimacy with their dominant by allowing them to take care of them and for the dominant to take control. So Here are some examples of these archetypes. You have the maid slash houseboy slash housegirl. The submissive takes on the role of a domestic servant responsible for tasks such as cleaning, cooking, and laundry. That's where domestic servitude comes from. The personal assistant. If you think one of these matches, you feel free to raise and say, yay, that's me, or give an emoji, thumbs up, or go, as we were, if you want to. You don't have to personally identify. That's your choice. The personal assistant. The submissive takes on a role of a personal assistant, providing the administrative or organizational support to the dominant. So I see some finger pointing going on out there. The foot servant. The submissive provides services related to their feet, such as massages, worship, or cleaning. That's the most basic way of explaining that. The service animal. So the submissive takes on the role of a service animal and provides a specific service or function to the dominant. These can include emotional support, such as being a listening ear, providing companionship, or performing such tasks as fetching or carrying objects, or being their protection outside. Say they're in a restaurant and they may have a seizure. A service animal is great for that. Just as in real life with a service animal, you can treat a submissive the same way. The slave. The submissive takes on the role of a slave and is expected to completely devote themselves and be obedient to the dominant. We're going to be going over what a slave means in our BDSM 101 class. Yeah, guard dog, exactly. But for short, to me, a slave is someone who has progressed past the realm of submissive and has total trust between the dominant and the submissive, to where they know each other in and out, and they go into a very deep bond that allows the person to be completely devoted to them or to the dominant. To me, that is equivalent to marriage in the BDSM lifestyle, personally, because that's where you get the collaring ceremonies. That's where you get like all those really big rituals, and we'll go over those in a little bit. The masseuse. The submissive takes on the role of a masseuse, providing massages or other forms of physical touch to the dominant. I'm seeing fingers again. Nurse, providing care and attention to the dominant, such as administering medication or dressing wounds. Say you're a UFC fighter or you're into MMA. It's nice to have a nurse around, right? Even if they may not be certified, they can help you do various basic help there. Butler. The submissive takes on the role of the butler, providing services and support to the dominant in a variety of ways. You can understand answering the door, keeping the house clean, serving dinner. That's basically what we're going to be focusing on. Maid, food service tonight. In this environment, you might notice we're in a nice cafe. During the workshop, we're going to be doing tea or food and tea service, bottoms serving tops. But if you think you're an archetype that doesn't conform to that, you don't have to leave. You can act it out here anyway. If you think you're a service animal and you want to sit next to your owner or someone that you're serving in that moment, perfectly okay. The shrine maiden / priest. The submissive worships and maintains their dominant as if they were a deity, god, or goddess. I'm seeing a lot of accusatory stares at me. I'm not a god, but sometimes I think I am. No, this is a super interesting dynamic to me, and I'll probably be doing a class on this in the future because I'm going to be doing my own research and might as well. It's a form of where the submissive will take on the person as their deity, and they will worship them, maintain them in a way that's non-sexual but also sexual. It could be either or, but it's a very, very deep headspace and very intense, and it's something I'm kind of interested in. And shout out to the dolls. The submissive takes on the role of a doll and behaves in a doll-like manner. We're probably going to have a panel on dolls because it's not something I'm super familiar with, but it's something that I think would be beneficial for people to learn about, especially since you see Dollhouse in the server and Dolls After Dark. It's a mindset, it's a headspace, and it's something that we have quite a few people into in this server, and I would love for them to be able to have a place to explain it and be able to share what they're passionate in. But let me go through what the basic understanding is for me. This may include being passive, silent, and compliant, as well as being dressed in doll-like clothing or makeup. The submissive may be posed or positioned in a specific way in order to be admired or used by the dominant. You're talking about object in terms of this. So some people are into that, some people aren't. The robot. The submissive takes on the role of a robot and behaves in robotic or mechanical manner. This may include being programmed, performing tasks or commands given by the dominant without question, speaking in a monotone voice, and avoiding eye contact. The bodyguard. The submissive takes on the role of a bodyguard and provides protection and security to the dominant. This may include physically protecting the dominant, such as standing guard or accompanying them on outings, as well as providing emotional or mental support. The submissive may also take on responsibilities such as planning and organizing the schedule and ensuring their safety and well-being. Yes, Dapple, I can definitely tell that this is you. Very similar to the service animal, but more intense. Well, those are some basic examples. Taking on a service archetype adds a fun roleplay spice to the form of BDSM lifestyle, and a lot of pride can be had on both sides. For example, I'm really proud of my service animal. She does very well for me, and I am appreciative of the companionship she gives me. Who's a good girl? So, we have additional examples. So those are the archetypes. Those, of course, aren't all inclusive. You can go down a rabbit hole on anything you can think of and find information on it on Google and or OpenAI. I highly recommend, if you're using OpenAI to do research, that you double check the references, because sometimes it's not correct, but it does give a very good basic understanding of whatever you're trying to learn about. And so I use it to sort of cross-reference and help explain things. So we've already been through some of the archetypes, but I can give some additional examples of non-sexual acts of service. Cleaning, running errands, managing appointments, help with organization, as we mentioned. This is pretty much all inclusive of the archetypes we just went through. Providing personal services, such as dressing, grooming, or hairstyling. Oh, that's another one that I saw, is stylist. You can act as a stylist for your dominant as if they were a model, and you're running around maintaining their schedule, doing their hair. You know, that's like a part of a reverse pimpification kind of thing, which is interesting. Act as personal assistant or secretary, help with managing their finances, engage in submissive training exercises such as learning new skills or practicing obedience. For example, if I'm working with someone new, I'll usually have them learn poses, whether it be Nadu, kneeling, inspection, like this, to inspect against the wall, various different, footstool, different positions that will help them express their submission to me, obviously consensually. And we'll go over that and make sure that on command, they can do that sort of command. Help with physical tasks such as carrying or moving heavy items. Security, as we mentioned. Plan and prepare meals to the dominant's liking. Organizing their work schedule. And help keeping the dominant's home or office clean and tidy. You may start to notice the overlap of service submission and many other kinks. And that does happen quite often. A pet or a rope bottom can also be a service submissive. There's nothing saying you can't. Okay? You can also be a hybrid. You can be a pet who's a service submissive at the same time, or you can be a separate pet who puts aside time to show their service submission, or a little who puts aside time when they're not little to be a service submissive, right? So it can be during or it can be separate. There's no right or wrong way about doing this. Find the thing that works for you. Experiment. It's fun to experiment. Just make sure you're doing it consensually and with someone who is on board. Service submission can or cannot involve sexual interactions. It can be a normal daily life or a scene specifically. So you can have a 24/7 sort of dynamic in service submission, or you can have it set aside specific times that you want to express this. Does anyone have any other examples of non-sexual service that they want to share or have experience with? Slothy.
Sort of like upkeep for shoes.
Shoes, boot blacking, yes. Upkeeping with shoes, again, there is a difference between foot play and boot blacking and worshiping shoes. So just FYI, but yes, upkeeping of the boot blacking and making sure that the shoes are shiny and up to the dominant specifications. It's very specific, but there's a lot going on there. Dame, dame, dame-o, dame, dame-o. Examples of sexual acts of service. Providing sexual pleasure through techniques such as oral sex, manual stimulation, or intercourse. Engaging in BDSM activities such as bondage, impact play, or sensation play. Following the dominant's instructions and completing tasks they have been assigned in terms of sexually, like say you both are consensually sending pictures to each other, send me this pose while you're naked kind of thing. Again, if someone's pressuring you into nudes, say no, unless you're 100% okay with sending them. Let's see, participating in group sex or being shared with other partners. So that's fun. If you are in a dynamic where you're okay being loaned out as property, then that is a very good way to show your service submission. You can be like, for example, someone is a very good friend of the dominant and you have a previous okay and consent to be loaned out to that person. The person may see the other person in the store, for example. Say you're in the grocery store and you see each other. Someone can turn to the submissive and say, you're theirs for 24 hours, go. You know, fun stuff. Exhibitionism and voyeurism. Engaging in exhibition or voyeurism. Being willing to take on a specific role or persona as defined by the dominant. So you are going to bark like a dog. Bark, bark, bark. Yay. Wearing specific clothing, being blindfolded or gagged, following the dominant's instructions for positions or techniques to the letter. As we said, dolls, just being an animate object. People are into that. Engaging in consensual non-consent role-playing. If you have that amount of trust with somebody and you have previously negotiated, you can go into something like that. And being willing to engage in BDSM activities that push the submissive boundaries or limits. Now, be very careful there. You have to have a lot of trust. If you've given that permission to somebody, just make sure you're being very careful. Because if you're pushing boundaries, that's okay, as long as it's consensual. But make sure you're not breaking those boundaries. Because things can bend, but if they break, you can cause harm. Something I like to say is that I'm a sadist. I'm going to hurt you consensually, but I refuse to do any long-term damage. Long-term damage to me is, so that goes physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I may be in a scene where I'm being humiliating or degradation or what have you, obviously with permission. But if something is actually triggering and they read out and I don't respond and I keep doing it, that's doing harm, not hurt. So that is when I say at the beginning of any relationship or any dynamic I have, I promise to not do any intentional harm. What we're doing can be dangerous. BDSM in of itself is considered to be dangerous. So that's part of the reason I started these classes, is that I want it to be safety mindset and allow people to express themselves in a safe environment. So doing it here, making sure everything's cool with me as a DM, other people around may have experience so they can say stop if something's going wrong. And that's why we use the stoplight system, right? Cool. Let me look at the chat. Boot blacking can be non-sexual and not always for submissive. Yes. Thank you, Bash Putin. That is very true. For example, it's not necessarily boot blacking, but I was taught how to do hookah. You know, the glass pipe or the pipe stuff. Hold on, I got some people to invite in. There we go. I was taught how to do hookah properly. And so that is my type A sort of boot blacking style thing, right? So I will make sure that it's set up. I will make sure it's maintained during the smoking. And that's sort of my happy place because I can make sure that it's doing what it needs to do and that it's doing it well and correctly. Don't touch my hookah when I'm messing with it. But no, jokes aside, it's sort of the similarities to blue blacking. Blue blacking, I am not a submissive. I am dominant, but I still enjoy being of service in that way because it's something that I enjoy doing. Right? Okay, cool. Okay, so let's see. The point of all of this. The point is doing something that your dom wants you to do because you want to submit to them or be helpful and not because you're being forced to do it. Okay? Oh, I know. Go on. Get out. Incoming. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're doing something that's consensual to you. I keep harping on that, but it's very important. A lot of people who get into this don't understand that they have a say, that they're in charge of what happens to them. You don't have to follow every direction your dom says if it's going to harm you. Okay, so what does a submissive get from being of service to their dominant? So I'm just going to go over a few things, and I have the dominant side as well, but I want a raise of hands or an emoji or something if you think that this is you. Some may say that a sense of fulfillment or satisfaction for pleasing the one they serve. I'm just going to keep going, so if you want to raise your hand or do the emojis, we can do a flood of emojis. Perhaps finding purpose, meaning belonging or being part of something. They could find the humility or service in the bond of being controlled or having a clear structure in their life. Other examples, the feeling of trust and connection, the feeling of being desired and wanted, feeling of being protected and cared for by the dominant. Again, this is all stuff you should be feeling if you're in a power exchange dynamic. It should not leave you feeling empty. The feeling of being valued and respected, the feeling of being in a safe space where you can express your desire and needs. That's basically what I'm trying to create for everybody here in my server, in our server, excuse me. It's not just mine anymore. Luna moment funny. Being in a safe space where you can let go of your responsibilities and let someone else take charge. Cool. A feeling of being able to explore, yeah, okay, desires and limits. We've already went over that. And a feeling of being able to fully express themselves in their sexuality. Service submissives can see some chores as relaxing or doing it to be helpful to the dominant. It's not something that they think is like a problem because they want to do it for somebody else. If you want to add, crashed, okay. If you want to add aspects of these that I've been mentioning or ones that you come up with to your existing relationships, you can easily start by asking your dom to give you a chore chart. Make your bed, clean the dishes. If you finish them, you get a reward. That is an easy way to start. A little out of order, but we can go down here. For example, no, I'll go over that in a second. So we're going to get into the different types of service in a second. Not the different types of what we're doing, but the different types of overall category. And I'll get into that in a second. Follow-up question. Oh, and does anyone have anything that I may have missed in terms of what being in a service submissive relationship could help you feel? Feel free to write it in event chat if you don't want to say it while I move on to the dominant side. If I'm not seeing your hand, I'm sorry. I am lagging slightly because the recording software sucks. A lot of CPU. Okay, so let's see. So, follow-up question. What does your dominant get from having a submissive serve them? You can raise your hand or give an emoji if the following applies to you. A sense of control or power. The sense of responsibility or care for the submissive. A feeling of being desired and wanted by the submissive. A sense of trust and connection. Being in charge and having clear structure in the dynamic. Yes. Being respected and valued. Haha. Being able to explore your own desires and limits, fully express yourself and your sexuality. You can see some overlap here already. The submissive pleasure them, or watching the submissive do something for them. The pleasure of teaching and guiding, right here. That's why I'm doing this. Some people are actually going off of the floor and raising up into the sky. Being able to teaching, guiding. Sense of satisfaction for seeing their submissive grow and evolve. Absolutely. Daddy and mommy mode, am I right? Sense of pleasure from pushing the submissive's boundaries and limits, consensually, of course, and testing their obedience and loyalty. Guilty. That's the sadist in me. Frost is nodding emphatically. Okay. You starting to get a sense that all these are two sides of the same coin? We're not all that different. So, does anyone have any additional ways or anything else on the dominant / submissive side about what people may be getting from this stuff? All right, awesome. Feel free to post it in an event chat. So, now we're going to talk about anticipatory versus ordered service. Anticipatory, or anticipating what needs are and doing them versus having set chores. Dapple touched on this a bit ago. Knowing your partner well enough to do something for them without having to be told. Example, Squidge makes me breakfast and coffee without being told because she knows that I have an early meeting, so she wakes up early to show her love and devotion for me and shows she's well attuned to me. Another example would be that Squidge knows I had a bad day at work and plans to give me a massage when I get from work, so she preps that for that incense music, etc. How she kept that from me because I work from home, I don't know, but you know. She probably had the door closed and I didn't come into the room. Except for my nap. Maybe I had my eye mask on or something. Let's see. Some doms don't like this. So talk with your dominant if it's something that they want. Sometimes a dom may or may not be in the right headspace to respond properly. Or they may want to have full control over the submissive. And that's okay. It could be also seen as topping from the bottom. And the dom may want full control of your actions. Again, so just have a conversation. All of this is about communication. Number one thing for kink is communication. 100%. That's why anytime I'm talking to somebody, it may seem like I'm going fast with some people, but it's really just to make sure expectations are set and we don't break boundaries. An easy way to show service submission is to be obedient, doing what you are told, not whining about it, etc. If there is a legitimate concern, bring it up. Okay. Wow, this is going on. Okay. Actually, no, it's not. Okay, cool. Ordered service. The dominant is 100% in charge of the submissive. The sub is given a list of things to do that will make their lives better. Theirs or the dominant's. Mostly the dominants. But the dominant shouldn't be giving tasks that aren't going to at least help someone grow as a person or in their submission. They should always be checking in and making sure they're actually getting something out of it. Because if you're just getting someone to just be your maid and they're not getting anything about it, or you're not establishing a mutual communication or rapport on something, it's going to be a problem. People are going to start resenting. You got a question? Okay. So, communication is key. Examples from my daily life. With permission, I've already talked to Squidge about this. You may remember some of this stuff from the previous training. Examples of my daily life. Squidge has 2 daily tasks, chores that she's assigned. Walking the dog in case I don't do it. I might have meetings in the morning because I have to work East Coast hours on the West Coast. And washing the dishes in the morning. We've been starting small and acclimating more. Slowly, we've been doing more and more to do various different things. And we're finding new creative ways for her to be of service that works for her and me. As her dom, it's my responsibility to see what she is doing and praise her as needed. We have a good girl counter. When she takes, personally for us, when she takes initiative, she gets praised in that way. Isn't that right? Yeah, sweet little cow maid going on over there with her little cow. I personally don't want to give over all of the chores to my submissive because I want to show that I'm doing my part as well. So I'll walk the dog, like at night, if I don't miss it in the morning. Do the laundry, she'll fold it, and vacuum. I don't ask her to vacuum because I'm the one that's obsessively like, oh, my allergies are going off, so I need a vacuum. But I may ask her to do one of those tasks or something else ad hoc as needed. Does anyone have anything set up that they're doing in their daily life? It doesn't have to be in person, it can be in VR. If you have any examples of what you're doing in your dynamics that you would like to share. Yes, Adrocath?
Yeah. I've literally sat down with my submissive and we've literally have like talked about like what she wants out of things and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty easily pleased as a dom, but with her, like, she wanted a little more structure, so we actually sat down and figured out what she actually wanted. And we've set up a calendar. And I check it every morning, and I go, okay, we're gonna make sure you get, like, these. My big thing is just proper general care of oneself, like going to bed on time, drinking water, eating correctly, and, if the person has, like, exercise routines and such, like, I'll actually, make them. Another thing is also make sure they go to sleep well enough so they're up and ready for work, even though he's a little brat about it. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Oh, actually...
Yes?
I've actually been using one of your systems at some points because the thing is I don't actually have a long-term dom yet, which I am working towards, but a lot of the people there are from the US and a lot of stuff, so there's not a lot of time to do stuff. But with the people that I do consistently do stuff with, we do have like expectations set up per rank of submission at the time. So there's like there's protocols effectively set up, and especially set up with certain expectations being done with that. Like if I'm in the higher protocol, I'm allowed to be a little bit more preemptive and be like, okay, I think it's gonna happen. I can do it in like media protocols. There's no big exceptions, but I have certain rulings, and those are like certain ideas I do have set up with people I've done consistent stuff with. So there is like structure in the sense of, okay, this is what we're doing. Like the collar is on, by example. This is, what to do in those kind of sense. Even though we don't do every single on and off, we do have like certain expectations set up for those kind of things. That kind of structure is very nice.
Awesome.
Thank you for the system, by the way.
Yeah. No worries. Dapple and I have been hanging out for a while. He knows some of the stuff that I haven't taught here yet, including rituals and protocols, which we're about to go over. So thank you for the segue. Oh,
I'm a
Frost.
YouTuber now.
Frost says obedience apps are nice, especially for long distance stuff. Jag has daily tasks she has to do and can be marked accordingly. Nice. Marked in multiple ways, I hope. All right, cool.
I need that app for reasons.
Kink resources, if you want to share it, that's up to you, Frost.
Thank you.
So, okay, or put it in Kink chat and then I can move it to resources. I haven't opened up Kink resources yet because I'm still organizing it, but put it in Kink chat if you want to, or anything that you want a resource of, and we can move it to the resources channel. Okay, so rituals and protocols. We'll go over rituals first. Rituals in a BDSM dynamic are specific actions or practices that can be performed regularly and consistently as part of a dynamic. These rituals can serve a variety of purposes, such as reinforcing the power dynamic, symbolizing the submissive submission, that's a tongue twister, submissive submission, or expressing the submissive's devotion. Rituals can include both physical actions and symbolic gestures, such as specific rituals of submission, such as kneeling, bowing, or addressing your dominant in a specific way, and protocols, such as set rules, customs, and expectations for the submissive to follow in order to show respect, obedience, etc. They can also include tasks that the submissive does on a regular basis. That would be your protocols, such as cleaning or cooking to please the dominant and show their devotion. Rituals specifically can be also used for discipline and punishment, such as spanking or flogging, in order to correct behavior or reinforce rules of the dynamic. And for reward and positive reinforcement, such as praise or a gift. Some people have praise kinks, for example, in order to reinforce positive behavior and reward the submissive for their service. For example, I never punish out of anger, ever. I always have conversations with people as if they're adults first. If something keeps going, then I'll say, okay, we've talked this over. It's still happening. We're going to have a correction session, but I'll wait until the hurt feelings about it are over, whether it be my side or their side. And a little later, we'll have a moment where we can come together and say, look, this is being done for this specific reason. I'm going to spank you 10 times and it's not going to be pleasant. Afterwards, it will never be brought up in a negative context again, unless it becomes a repeat offense. I'm not going to hold it over your head. Once we do it, it's washed away. And so 10 spankings later, huggles, kiss away tears, if that's the thing. Make sure you're not harming anybody or doing anything that's like, don't make sure you're not just smacking away. Make sure you're doing it at a pain tolerance that they can actually handle. And then after that, it's washed away. And it's very therapeutic for a dynamic. For me personally, there's only a few things that are higher in terms of bonding experiences than actual. They should never be done out of anger. They should be done out of love. Let's see. Rituals in the BDSM dynamic can include ceremonies such as collaring, which symbolize the submissive commitment to the dominant dynamic. You do not need to be a slave to receive a collar or have a ceremony. I know some people will say that that's not the case, but you do you. If you want to have a ceremony to express your love and admiration and your public bonding of something, if you're just becoming a pet or just becoming a submissive and not yet a slave, that is up to you, and that is okay. So you have your collaring ceremony, your protocols, your maintenance rituals, your rituals for submission, your punishment rituals, as we were talking about, rewards, and scene rituals, which are your safe words, negotiation, and aftercare. When I release the notes, they'll have set descriptions of all of these examples, so you can have more information. People might include rituals in their power exchange BDSM dynamics because they find that it enhances the emotional and psychological aspects of the dynamic. Rituals can provide a sense of structure and predictability in a relationship, which can be comforting and reassuring to both parties. It also creates a sense of tradition and history, which can be bonding and make the relationship feel more meaningful. Again, not everyone considers BDSM to be part of a relationship dynamic. They have it separate. I personally like to keep them combined as much as possible because I'm a demisexual and I require a bond in order to have sex or to do this stuff in a lot of cases, because it's like breathing with a bag on your head otherwise. You only get like a part of the experience. Like, For me, being, in sort of an empathic mindset, I want to be able to feel things bouncing off of people or reading their body language, whichever you believe in. Additionally, these rituals can serve as a way to set a scene and create a mood for BDSM play. By creating a sense of ritual and ceremony, it can make the experience feel more meaningful. I don't know if I already said that, but it deserves to be said again if I did. Protocols. Protocols in a dynamic. Oh, before I go there, does anyone have any examples of rituals that they may have set up or have heard about or are interested about, or etc., etc., etc.? Okay, if people have any, you can put it in event chat. So, protocols in a BDSM power exchange dynamic are specific rules, behaviors, or customs established and followed within the dynamic. They serve to define and reinforce the power dynamic, create a sense of structure and order, establish boundaries, enhance communication, and foster trust and intimacy between the dominant and the submissive, or group, if you're doing group play, because that's okay. I'm using a lot of examples with 2 people. There can be multiple people involved. 2 people can own a submissive, for example, or a dominant switch and submissive, or a dominant 2 switches, or 2 dominants and a submissive. Whatever works for you. They serve to define yada, 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 establish boundaries. Here are some examples of protocols that may be established in a BDSM power exchange dynamic. Address protocols, rules for how the dominant and submissive should address each other, such as using specific titles or forms of address. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, daddy. No, daddy. Master, slave, pet, girl, down the line. Communication protocols, rules for how the dominant and submissive should communicate, such as using certain words or phrases, or requiring permission to speak. For example, if I have someone in high protocol, which I'll go over in a second, speaking is not allowed unless otherwise given permission for. But that's, my personal way of doing it. Behavior protocols, rules for how the dominant and submissive should behave in certain situations, such as public or in private. Dress protocols, rules for how people should dress, such as wearing specific clothing or adornments. Like, for example, you may see in certain erotica, the submissive was not allowed to wear clothes when they were inside, or shoes at all, because shoes have a very significant symbolism for a submissive/slave style dynamic. So barefoot and pregnant is where that comes from. Let's see. Scene protocols, rules for how scenes should be conducted, such as rules for consent, safe words, and aftercare. And service protocols, rules for how the submissive should serve the dominant, such as specific duties or tasks that they should perform. So these are very similar to each other, but there are differences, and we'll go over that. We'll go over that right now. So they can be both used in a BDSM power exchange dynamic, but they have some key differences. Rituals are typically more symbolic or ceremonial in nature, and may involve specific actions, words, or symbols that are repeated in a specific order. They are often used to mark special occasions or to create a sense of ceremony or tradition within the dynamic. Like, say, coffee on my desk every single morning could become a tradition, right? Examples of rituals in the BDSM dynamic include collaring ceremonies or rituals that mark the start or end of a scene. At the beginning of every scene, you could have a ritual where you collar somebody, and that means that they are to answer to you and go into medium or high protocol immediately, consensually. So, yeah. Protocols, on the other hand, are more practical in nature and are designed to establish specific rules, behaviors, or customs that should be followed within the dynamic. Protocols are often used to define the power dynamic, establish boundaries, and create a sense of structure and order. Examples of protocols in the dynamics include addressing, communication, behavioral, and service. So don't feel shy with experimenting or adding these to your dynamics. Feel free to put in event chat if you have any protocols that you use that could be of use to other people, or if you have questions regarding those, because we're going to be taking questions at the end of this, and I'll be pulling them from event chat, so feel free to put in your questions. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples of what I do. My example protocols, for example, and these are mine, so these are subjective. Low protocol, what we are doing right now. No assumption of service or dynamic honorifics. High protocol, so we're going to go all the way up to the top. Head down, kneeling or sitting, quiet, and only responding to your dominant's voice or action. While in this state, it allows the submissive to relax and just be in their dominant's care and revel in their dominant's energy. Medium protocol is a happy mix of both. And that is what Squidge is in almost 24/7. The submissive is more in tune with their dominant's needs and defers all decisions to their dominant, asking permission to leave their side, asking permission to go chat with someone across the room, online or offline, asking permission before changing avatars, or taking their headset off to go to the bathroom. These are all online examples. Honorifics are used heavily here. Yes, sir. Yes, master. Yes, daddy. And there is a higher level of respect and deference. Example, I'll use low protocol to allow a little bit of bratting, but I won't allow it in medium protocol. So if someone is a brat to me, or if someone is a brat in general, I don't want to curtail their way of expression, but there are times and places. Does that make sense? Cool. So I'll give a real life example of the above, okay? So I'm coming home from work, or coming out of my room after I'm done, and I expect dinner to be made, service, and Squidge to be in high protocol, waiting naked and kneeling for me with a leash in hand. That's the protocol. She already has served in on the table and was waiting for her daddy to come home or come out of his room to tell her what else to do. That's the assigned task. When I get home, I give her a big kiss, thank her for doing what she was been told, leash her and walk her over to the dinner table where she serves me my meal, then kneels next to me where I eat my dinner and she holds my drink for me. It's also service and also protocol. Then I feed her from my plate once I finish, then onto the couch for her to sit on my feet, holding my leg while I pet her and we watch Sherlock and she holds my scotch. Now, the ritual part of that could be that before any of that starts, a collar gets put on her neck, or a specific, like maybe cat ears get put on to determine this is the time in which we're going to be in protocols, like more so than normal. And that flips a switch in people. So it's good to have that sort of change in style and that dynamic. You know, it's like, okay, this is the time when we're going to start doing serious time. Bratting, stop, right? Example, in this example, bratting would not work for me in this case. Some people like it. I'm okay with bratting, just not during service protocols, in my opinion. Does anyone have any other examples of a dynamics that they've given or received? What was that about? We can discuss on this for a little bit, if anyone has any.
I live with too many brats. It's impossible.
Yeah. Lots of brats.
I'm surrounded by little assholes.
Mm-hmm. That's what low protocol's for. Okay.
Point at me, fuck off.
Okay, so we have a little bit more time before we start the actual workshop. So I told you this is gonna be the full hour, and I'm not surprised it is. So here's some examples from around the web. On FetLife, someone's comment to the question was, what constitutes a service submissive? And the answer was from this person: mopping the floor or cooking the evening meal may well be classed as service orientated. What of kneeling and accepting the cock of your master is not service oriented? What does the honor of preparing the evening meal for your master not enrich or boost your self-esteem, knowing that your master is going to sit and enjoy all your hard work? Could this be classed as service orientated? Does the feeling you feel not brighten your day when you see your master return home and exhausted and you run his bath or slowly wash him and clean him and slowly massage him as he lays on the bed, and then you slowly take his cock into your mouth? This person has an oral fixation, and drifts off to sleep as you please him, and you see him laying there exhausted, sleeping with a much satisfied and happy look on his face. Could that be classified as service orientated? That speaks to a lot of levels. So another person said, what constitutes service orientated submission? Anticipating and recognizing and addressing a need. Your dom needs a glass of water. What constitutes a service? Following through on one's observation. Get the water, and while you're at it, maybe make a sandwich. Again, I'm not saying get in the kitchen, make a sandwich. This is just this person's description, but you get the idea. Anticipating that they may be hungry as well. Is there a difference between service and chore, and what is it, if any? A service can be spontaneous. A chore is a rote activity, though a chore is no less a service, as its effectiveness is in its consistency. Okay. And so I pulled this from Reddit, my songbird. This was in service submissions subreddit. My songbird is a service sub. And that meant when we had a housewarming party, she cleaned up everything afterwards, leaving the house and kitchen spotless. More so, she found a tremendous source of pride and joy, knowing that it freed our time to mingle with the last few guests that we had for the evening. Honestly, I would never trade her for anything. Her devotion and desire to please me means more to me than anything some other woman could do for me. And there is a book called Real Service by Joshua Tenpenny. And here's the description off of Amazon. There'll be a link in the notes. If any consenting and negotiating personal service relation, or in any consenting and negotiating personal relationship, there are hundreds of ways to be the servant that can make the master's life easier, and the master can manage the servant most effectively. Why is it that we usually only hear about a few of these? Mostly sexual service, kinky play and BDSM, or perhaps leather care or formal tea service. From housework to driving to childcare to personal care, nearly anyone who is in service or would like to be has dozens of skills that they already know that they can offer as a service, and there are countless more practical everyday skills they can learn. Real Service is a handbook for those service-oriented submissives and people they serve, providing techniques to help service relationships function smoothly and suggestions for service that can be offered. I swear I'm not selling the book, but trying to make it sound interesting because it's a good book. And yes, leather care oath, that is something that is a good example of service. Okay, so being a maid or a butler and being polite and respectful are good examples in which we will be working on today. Wow. Class proper is done.
Well done.
So,
Golf
You
clap.
did it.
golf clap. That was a lot of talking.
Good time
Expensive
management.
clap.
Whew. I'm 2 minutes early.
Management.
Expensive clap.
Well done. Well done.
Expensive clap.
Expensive control.
So we found the limit. 4,000 words. Good to know.
That was 3,800 words, not including the workshop, which I'm going to describe. Also, I have some links from Eva Lupine about service submission and the service submission archetypes, which gave me the idea to include those and expand upon them in this, because I think it's a lot of fun to take on an actual role and sort of be that, or have someone be that for you. That's not necessarily the case for everybody, but for me, it sounds kind of interesting. Squidge, did I miss anything that you can think of? Sweet. I'm gonna give you a kiss.
I'll be a traffic manager at some point.
Mwah.
Wow.
Oh my god. What are you gonna do? Direct me into the goddamn driveway?
Yes.
Hashtag
Questions?
You should put the books that you say like as a affiliate link from Amazon,
Oh, I did.
so we can buy the book easier.
I did.
and-
It'll be in resources by the end of the day.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in my notes as an affiliate link because I've been an affiliate at Amazon for about 12 years now. So
Oh dang.
I've gotten 2 checks from them. I don't really make much money. But hey, it's there. Okay.
Don't quit your day job.
Don't quit my J job. Okay. So the workshop, you can tell we're in a cafe. We are going to be doing a medium/high protocol dinner service and tea service. Well, not dinner service because we only have pastries. We have some sandwiches over there. The Doms will sit at the booths and order food from the submissives, who will go into the kitchen or / over here and grab or spawn them in a medium/high protocol way. Yes, sir, I will get that for you, etc., etc. Again, if you don't feel like being a maid or a butler today, that's perfectly acceptable. You can be whatever you want to be with somebody. So, if you want to be an animal, you can be next to them, playing with their toes or their feet or whatever. You know, not you get what I mean. Respect politeness and make sure the dominance needs are met. The Doms may allow you to sit at the table with them or kneel next to them, or if you are splitting time with multiple people, you can move on to others. Like, for example, we used to have someone that used to like just be basically running the shop. Just running between everybody. The Dom may order a meal for you and you may eat it next to them or at the table per their discretion. The Dom and sub may engage in ERP based on service mindsets. Just make sure you're out of the way and not taking away from the experience from others. Secret room up there on the bookshelf. You can go in there and have at it. There is alcohol in there too. You can't bring it out here, unfortunately, but you can go in there and sample. You can't. They changed it.
I may have checked
I did.
most of the alcohol on the
Where is it?
crab.
God damn it, Cosmos.
Ah, I brought the booze out.
Okay, so it used to be. It used to be you couldn't actually pull that stuff out, so I'm glad to see that they can actually
don't
do
worry
it
about
now.
blocking, by the way. I'm gonna stay here for today.
No, I just
Okay.
broke the map, Taku. I just broke the map. It's
Okay, cool.
fine.
So,
Casual.
so yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, okay, I'm old. Oh. Does anyone have any questions
some
before we get
water.
started? I've been drinking water, actually.
No question. Drink water. Good. Good question.
Can I man the cafe?
Yes, oh, if we have coffee.
Wonderful.
I am unironically good at making coffee with that. I am unironically.
Same. Let's fucking go.